The governor of Texas, Greg Abbott, just signed basically the most extreme anti-abortion legislation currently in the United States. It's known as the heartbeat law, although I would really love if it would stop being known as that because that's scientific nonsense. It amounts to an outright ban on abortion. As many women are not aware they're pregnant at the 6-week mark that it would actually ban abortions at. It would also allow any private citizen to sue doctors or abortion clinic employees who would perform or help arrange for the procedure. So it's not just that it's based on something that's totally unscientific. It's emotional manipulation to talk about this as being about heartbeats. It also allows a country full of Karens to personally involve themselves in trying to shut down these clinics and get these doctors put behind bars. Now that is now law in Texas, across all of Texas, this massive populous state. In some areas of Texas it's actually worse though. So Texas chapters of Planned Parenthood and the ACLU recently filed a lawsuit against Lubbock, Texas, where voters approved a sanctuary for the unborn ordinance this month. The rule effectively bans all abortions in the city of almost 260,000 residents. And I would like to at least give them credit for honesty, because this stuff about 20 weeks or 14 weeks or heartbeats or whatever is nonsense. They're, at least in Lubbock, doing what the Republicans really want to do, which is totally get rid of it. To say that more than a half a century of Supreme Court precedent and Roe v. Wade and all of this, people have born and lived and died under a constitutional guarantee to reproductive rights, we're done with that. Either for whatever reason, because we have the power to do it and our base likes it, or because we honestly believe that this is what our virulent form of conservative Christianity requires, we're gonna ban it, it's gonna be wiped out. And as of right now in Texas, it is effectively that way right now.
Okay, well, there's gonna be some twists and turns of what I'm gonna say here. One, I'm actually gonna give, and John's gonna hate this, Donald Trump some credit in this story. All right, we'll get to that in a second. But I want you to know that there's a more absurd part of this law. So the 6 weeks means basically we're ending abortion, as John explained, right? But that's what Republicans said they were gonna do. Did you think they were lying? So if you don't agree with that, don't vote for Republicans. So does it have a constitutional problem? Yes. Might the conservative Supreme Court now overrule Roe v. Wade? Yes. And then it'll be a political issue, and then a lot of folks will be enraged. You should be, but understand the consequences of voting for Republicans. They believe in big government that intrudes in your personal life in the most personal way you could possibly imagine. They literally want the government to go inside your body and dictate what you do with it. So that's who Republicans are. They're loathsome. But if you like that, if you say, I love it when they regulate what I can and can't do with my own body. I hate freedom. I'm a woman who hates having any freedom at all. I can't wait to give away choices about my body and my entire life to a bunch of Republican politicians who've never met me. Okay, well then vote for Republicans, right? And by the way, they also hate gay people. They also tell you what kind of sex they have, etc. And they're also amazingly against contraception. So you like these idiotic, barbaric laws and with these cavemen, then you vote Republican, that's clear. But the second part of this law says that anybody in Texas can sue doctors or anyone that's a part of a facility that provides abortions if they hear that they're doing abortions past 6 weeks.
How is that legal?
That's not a thing. So this is the modern Republican Party. So the anti-choice, anti-abortion wing of the party has been around forever, right? So that's not modern. The second half of this legislation is the modern version, where they go, well, normally the way to sue someone civilly is if you were hurt, right? This is not criminal action, this is civil action. John did something to me and so I'm suing him to either get him to stop doing it or pay me damages, etc., right? In this case, nothing happened to you. You claim you have information that somebody else got an abortion at that clinic and you sue the doctors. That's not recognized in American law. That's not how it works. Like that's not I don't know how to describe that because it makes no sense. It's like, I don't even have an analogy. That's how nonsensical it is, okay? And Republicans know that. You think Republican politicians and the governor that signed that don't know that this is not the American form of government? They know that, right? Like, who cares? Because we're not attached to logic anymore. And that's why they, the MAGA guys are like, ha ha, we live rent free inside your heads, right? Because you just can't figure out how dumb we are. Well, that's true, and it bothers you that we don't care about facts or logic. Ha ha! Yeah, it does kind of bother me.
Yep.
Right? And the fact that 40% of this country has lost its mind, is maniacal, and doesn't even care about the concept of logic. It's just an amazing phenomenon, and this is yet another example of it.
Yeah. It's bizarre. I don't know what standing these people would have, and an idiot might think that putting in the thing about allowing you to sue them would then provide some cover for the overall law by changing the concept of standing, but no, that's not how the Constitution works either. None of it makes any sense. Credit to them, I guess, for so many of the things the Republican Party has tried to do, especially when it comes to women, has seemed ripped from the pages of The Handmaid's Tale. But I've read The Handmaid's Tale and the Testaments. There's nothing about people being able to sue clinics that they're not involved in. So at least they're experimenting. They're coming up with something new. I do also want to reassure a lot of Americans, and especially our international viewers. You might look at this and think, oh, there is something seriously wrong with Texas, and there very much is. This is their government, partially as a result of gerrymandering and all that. But this isn't actually representative of what Texans think about reproductive rights. In a recent survey, about 40% of respondents there identified as pro-life and 41% as pro-choice. Those are obviously loose labels. They can refer to a lot of things, but I don't think the pro-choice people believe that there should be no abortion under any circumstances, which effectively is what this produces. So you have a very split population, and what's your law? As a result of a split population, is it unity and bipartisanship that the Republicans say they want? No, it's the most extreme legislation in the entire country. Worse that pick a red state. They're worse than that, even though their elections are within a couple points of flipping blue in any given case. And yet this is what we get there.
Do you ever notice, isn't it amazing that American media doesn't tell you this? That whenever there are Democrats in office, we hear nonstop unity and bipartisanship. Whenever Republicans hold office, we never hear about unity and bipartisanship. John's right, in the coverage of this Texas issue, I've not heard one instance of anyone in the media saying, they're evenly split on this issue in Texas, and yet the Republicans did not seek unity or bipartisanship.
Yeah.
Because nobody would even think that. Of course they're not gonna seek unity or bipartisanship. That's for idiot Democrats. When we sucker them into agreeing with Republicans even when they won. But Republicans aren't that stupid. I just told you how maniacally detached from reality that they have become, and even they're not stupid enough to do unity and bipartisanship against themselves when they're in power. So that we're stuck between dumb and dumber in this country in terms of the political parties. Now back to Trump. Now why give Trump credit on this?
Okay. I don't. Okay. Just don't.
Well, I'm going to, because I'm fair and honest. So what Trump started was a rebellion against the establishment. Now it was in the form of a maniacal, egotistical con man who lies nonstop and is a buffoon. But the phenomenon is real, and this story reminded me of when Mitch McConnell went on the Senate floor and said, if the Democrats killed the filibuster, here's all the things we're gonna do if we're ever in charge. And he listed the wish list of all the Republican voters, including getting rid of abortion. Which then led us to ask the question, then why didn't you do that when you were in charge? And the reason is because the Republicans only use that as political gimmicks. And the only thing they actually want to do is tax cuts for the rich. Now, Trump was the person who was in charge. He could have done those things, and he chose not to either. And he also chose to give tax cuts for the rich. So he went along with all the Republicans. So don't get me wrong. Again, con man, the worst of the worst, all of that. But that rebellion is real. And like it or not, he's the one that started the rebellion, at least on the right wing side. And so now that is spreading like wildfire. And so now in states like this, the voters are saying, the Republican voters, now we're tired of you not doing what we want. Now I'm completely against what the Republican voters want in Texas, okay? But they're at least saying, No, I'm tired of you just telling me, oh yeah, that energy company that killed us during the freeze, they're awesome, and you got a couple $1 million, and that barely got covered by the media because the media is awful, right? And I don't know that a lot of people know about that, but they weren't excited by that. It's not like Republicans in Texas were like, yes, we froze to death, way to go, Governor Abbott, right? Maybe they were excited by cultural issues and hey, he took the mask off earlier, etc. But when he does this, they're like, there you go, okay? So, even though I think this law is insane and wrong, at least it is the beginning of some portion of our electorate saying, you better serve us, otherwise there's going to be political consequences. And the right wing has begun that, and unfortunately it was started by the worst of people, Donald Trump. The left wing has barely started it. I'm being honest with you guys, even though I'm on the left, I wish it was better. Our rebellion is a little bit later than their rebellion. Our rebellion is way more logical. It's 1,000 times more reasonable, right? But I think that's the phenomenon. Thoughts?
I guess.
I got an I guess out of John. I'm giving any kind of credit to Trump.
I mean, yes, they do expect them to deliver on some of the insane things that right-wing media has trained them to want in lieu of solutions to their economic crises. So filtered through nonsense and ignorance and hatred and xenophobia, they have a want and they expect it to be delivered on. That is true.
Yeah, whereas Democratic voters will get our asses handed to us 99 out of 100 times, and we'll go back and go, oh no, those are great. Don't disagree. We just have to support them harder. We have to support them harder. Joe Biden, way to collapse on $15 minimum wage. I'm supporting you even harder, right? And so honestly, up and at them, left wing. You guys kind of suck at this rebellion thing. And we got to get way better at it. As obviously you saw on the Israeli-Palestinian issue, it has begun. On some issues, now progressives boldly challenging the establishment of their own party. It's about damn time. On this one, you could learn a lesson or two from the Republicans, just minus the lunacy.
Yeah, so form a chai tea party, basically.
Well, I don't know that I would frame it that way.